In 2005, I had an experience that changed the way I think. I was in Khartoum, Sudan, working 3 days a week at the new UN peacekeeping mission and 3 days a week on the busy campus of Afad, Sudan's only all-women university. North and South Sudan had just signed a peace agreement and had tried to put an end to more than 30 years of brutal war. There was a new transitional government that was planning to write a constitution, to reform the armed forces and the entire civil service, and to keep spreading the word across the country about the content of that peace agreement. It was an exciting and deeply hopeful time. And yet women from all parts of Sudan were struggling to shape their own futures. They were largely excluded from the formal peace talks. And in this next phase, they still struggled to get to the table where more major decisions were being made. And it was so clear to me that they had the strength and the perspectives and the connections and the wisdom that were so badly needed for an agreement to take root, to take really deep roots that would give the deal a real chance to succeed and to endure in the uncertain times ahead. And it was so striking to see up close how remarkable women from all parts of the country had to spend their time and their energy and their brain power just to get their voices heard, to get invited to consultations or to serve on parliamentary committees, to be appointed to commissions, to shape donor priorities, and so much more. Sudanese and South Sudanese women forever shaped my understanding about who belongs at peace tables and about the roles that we all play in removing the barriers that diverse women face to getting there. I've been fortunate to keep learning from them in the years since and from women around the world with similar experiences. And I'm more committed than ever to help make change, including in my role now as Canada's ambassador for women, peace, and security. Au cœur même du concept Femmes, Paix et Sécurité se trouve enracinée l'idée que tout le monde a le droit d'influencer les décisions qui ont un impact sur leur vie. Et ça inclut les décisions relatives au fait de vivre en paix et en sécurité. Il reconnaît que les meilleures pratiques et les politiques publiques sont celles qui sont élaborées par des personnes les plus touchées. L'agenda Femmes, Paix et Sécurité existe parce que même si pour des milliers d'années, les femmes, dans toute notre diversité, ont joué un rôle essentiel dans la prévention, la fin, la lutte et la reconstruction après les guerres, on est toujours dramatiquement sous-représentés dans ces processus. The concept of women, peace, and security is not about saying that all women are inherently more peaceful than men. It is not about just adding a few women to an existing process and thinking that they will somehow represent all women or be able to transform the institutions or norms or structures that have been in place for generations. And above all, it is not an idea that comes from the so-called West or the global North. We have Resolution 1325 and so much of what follows because women community leaders from around the world, particularly those whose lives were directly impacted by the horrors of war, advocated. Thousands came together in Beijing in 1995 for a World Conference on Women. Women from Colombia, from Rwanda, from Bosnia, the Philippines, and so many other places. And they talked about how even though they came from very different contexts, their experiences were strikingly similar. It was that during the war, they sustained their communities. They got warring parties to go to peace talks. They fought as combatants, and they led healing and reconciliation. And yet, when it came time for formal processes to deal with these issues, they were largely excluded. So they mobilized and ultimately convinced the UN Security Council to state that women are not only victims of war, but they're essential agents of change. Even Resolution 1325 itself was led by Namibia with support from Bangladesh, Jamaica, Canada, and others. Une donnée probante qui vient vraiment me chercher est le fait que la résolution 1325 a été traduite dans plus de langues et de dialectes que toute autre résolution du Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies. Partout autour du monde et parmi leurs communautés, Les femmes s'approprient ce mouvement et savent combien il est pertinent. Knowing this, I find it stunning when someone tries to dismiss the ideas driving women, peace, and security as being imposed by the outside. And I found that people who most often say that it's not culturally appropriate for women to have a voice in their own lives are those that are most determined to preserve their own power and who have the least interest in being held accountable by their own community. Women everywhere have a right to participate in decisions that affect their lives. And we know that when they do, peace is more likely to endure. La participation des groupes de la société civile, y compris les organisations des femmes, au processus de paix réduit de 64% les risques d'échec des accords de paix. Et lorsque les femmes jouent un rôle significatif dans les processus de paix, la probabilité que la paix dure au moins 15 ans augmente de 35%. La mise en œuvre de l'agenda Femmes, Paix et Sécurité est essentielle parce qu'une paix durable n'est pas possible si la moitié de la population en est exclue. We now have several Security Council resolutions on women, peace, and security. Almost 100 countries have created national action plans to bring the ideas alive in their own context. We have big multilateral organizations with plans. We have hundreds of local communities with strategies. And we are also evolving as a field. Many recognize the idea of intersectionality, a term coined by Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, to describe the ways that various forms of inequality can operate together and exacerbate each other. Young people have made clear the crucial importance of the roles they play, as have people who don't fit in traditional gender binaries. We are changing, and we are changing the world. And when I think about my hopes for the next 20 years, I want us to succeed in shifting the burden, meaning that women, in all of our diversity, no longer feel that we need to make the case as to why we belong at every decision-making table. I want governments and institutions and communities to have to justify how they can still exclude, how they have not yet removed barriers to equal participation. That's where the burden should lie. None of us have the time to waste. Thank you. Merci.